Alright, no false starts hopefully. With this, I'm going to quickly pull up my YouTube. Hey, and we're live. Double check everything's good. Everything is as I expect. So, thank you for joining me. Let me just close this down. Thank you for joining me again for another episode of Malts Meeples. I'm Petter. I run Nerdologist as well as the Malts Meeples channel. And today we are hopping into the board game Pandemic. And in particular, Pandemic Legacy Season 1. So, if you aren't familiar with legacy games are board games where the game evolves over time. There are certain conditions that are hit or various things that happen that will cause your game to end up being different than any other game in the world. So, needless to say, well, maybe not, maybe needed to say, I've Pryes Main Squeeze. So this is one I found new this year. It is a blonde ale with lemon and lime. Super refreshing for the summer. So let's hop into this game. I have not done any of the setup for it. There's going to be a whole lot more setup for this game than there was for Onirum. So we have our top secret folder here. We will actually just leave this closed. We have rulebook. We have sticker sheet. We have the board. Let's see. I'll see about sticking this off completely off the screen. I don't know about the setup. I might have to adjust. If so, I apologize. They tell you to do this before the first game. Do not open package 8. Not unless you lose 4 games in a row. So we have everything we have here. Special directions. We'll put the top secret and which we will need now that I think about it. Let's see, I need something to get this open. Somewhere, maybe. I thought there was something in here. Let me quickly find something to get this open with. My common tool of choice for opening anything shrunk wrap like this is a pencil. Mechanical pencils are good. There has to be, where's that loose little spot that I can get this into. Get that rip started. I think that's started. I cut my fingernails, which was nice. However, not able to open up this stuff nearly as well as I would be able to most of the time. So we have our top secret folder. Set that down here. Sticker sheet. I'll explain what that's for later. We have in here the Legacy deck. Legacy deck here, which you can kind of read. It says, stop, do not draw, reveal, or handle or otherwise disturb these cards until instructed. Draw this card, read the other side, just before your first game. Back said, warning, this is the back side of these cards. Just set that in there. So Pandemic is a game where you are trying to deal with and cure 4 diseases. You have your different characters. You have your bases, and then we have a few different trackers. I'll show on the board in a second here. You also have your characters. And I just realized I do not have a pen for naming my characters or anything like that. I will have to track one down later. I'm looking around the office, and sure enough, we don't have anything like that. Who would have a pen in the office? Offices aren't for pens. Ooh. So at the beginning of the game, we have the option of playing a few different characters. I'm going to do this in front of me. We have the medic. The medic is very good at curing diseases. Dispatcher. The dispatcher is all about moving around other players. We have the scientist. They are better at finding a cure than anyone else. They require less cards to do that. We have the researcher. Researcher is better at distributing cards. So you need cards of matching colors to be able to say or solve the issue, to cure the diseases. And then we have the generalist. The generalist has no special ability. However, they get one additional action compared to everybody else each turn. Also, in this game, they have more upgrade slots. So, if I wanted to do this on easy mode, I would play with the dispatcher and medic. Dispatcher and medic is a very powerful combination. I'm not going to do that. In fact, I'm going to remove both of them from there, and I'm going to play with the generalist and the researcher. The scientist is very tempting. The scientist and researcher actually make a very powerful combo because the ability to get cards, and I'll explain when I trade cards, but it's a tricky situation. Having the researcher helps get cards combined. Sorry, I'm still looking for a pen. I feel like my wife should have one at her work desk. We'll see. Be back in 1 second. This is most definitely a pen. Excellent. So then we have couple more decks of cards we have to get opened here. I'm just gonna use my good old pencil. So this is what's known as the infection deck. This has every single city in the game where we might possibly get an outbreak. Oh, hold on. Apparently I have a fairly satisfying shuffle to watch according to my wife. So, you'll get to see that in a number of things. So I'm going to pull the rules book off to the side here. I will need that in a second, but I want to get the board set up. It's a fairly large board, so I'm hoping looks like we'll be able to get it on here. I also see a fun thing with this board. This is such a large board, it bends. Squish, squish, squish. Eventually it will lay flat. I think it took probably playing it 5 or 6 times before we got it to lay flat the first time. So these are the infection cards. Those are the bad things for us. We have here civilian cards. These civilian cards you get if your characters die. We generally want to avoid that. Let's see, looking at this, move that out of the way, slide this up here. get a better idea, and then I can lay out characters down there. We'll need access to the legacy deck. I'm just going to actually pull this thing out and set it down there. So you won't be able to see that, but it's not extremely important to see that. It's more important to see other things. So to start, we have our 4 diseases. There are some of these things I can do by memory because they are the same between the base game and Pandemic Legacy. So I believe this one allows us to know where we are here. We're in the month of January. So saying we have our civvies. If one of our guys dies, should not be an issue the first game. Fingers crossed. We have our epidemics and our special cards, and then our action cards. So our action cards tell us the different actions that we can take in the game. I will go over them as I need to. Beyond that, we also have our player cards, or our player deck of cards. These are the cards that we're using to cure the diseases. So I'll get those shuffled in a second, but now it's time to go to the rule book. Setup. Characters, have them read the mission briefing. First time you play, flip this. January mission briefing. You know the drill. You've got 4 viruses causing us problems. They seem to be mutating faster than usual. We have someone looking into that. For now, keep it under control as one of them may grow beyond our capabilities. It says keep drawing. Objective. Cure all 4 diseases. So that's what we're looking to do in the first game. This card, the very first one, can just drop into the tray, call it good. Second thing, have to pick out the colors for our 2 characters. Generalist looks purplish, researcher looks brown. We'll use those 2. Won't be using white and blue. Got my beer. Next, place the outbreak and cure markers. We have cure marker sitting there, outbreak marker. So the outbreaks is one way that you can die when we have an outbreak. And I'll show you what that means. We have the infection rate, and we have our objective marker. I think that does get used for something else in the game. Not super important right now. So our starting location is going to be the only spot we have a permanent base, CDC headquarters in Atlanta. Having CDC headquarters around makes it a whole lot easier to travel. Our research stations around makes it a whole lot easier to travel. That will be one of the things we are trying to build throughout the game. I'm just going to set those up there for now. Then, shuffle up. Well, first things first, we get a certain number of the good cards. Funding. Funding level starts at 4. So we get to take 4 of these special cards and add them to our deck. For me, the most important one, especially early game to have, is this government funding card. Government funding basically allows you to build a research station for free. I'm also a big fan of... Well, I'm going to play with my preferred combo of 4. We have 1 Quiet Night, keeps us from having to draw infection deck cards. This allows us to remove a card from the infection discard, the resilient population, and then forecast allows us to look at the top of the deck and sort it. That helps us avoid outbreaks. So grab those, shuffle this up. And these are in color order, so I'm going to be shuffling this several times. I want to make sure I'm on the YouTube channel just so I can see. If anybody has any comments, questions, quibbles, complaints, etc., please let me know. Please comment on these videos, like, subscribe if you're enjoying the content. Hopefully we can help Malts and Meeples grow over time. But right now it's, like I said, that I'm doing this because I can talk to the camera and I feel like I'm talking to people, and when people do view it, I am talking to people. But it allows me to play solo games in a way that is better. Better for better. So we start out with 4 cards for each character. Doesn't really matter with shuffling. And this is why you can solo play this game. This is public information. So I know that my generalist, and everybody at the table will know, has Bogota, Khartoum, Washington, and Bangkok. The researcher has Johannesburg, Taipei, Osaka, and Tokyo. I think this might be hidden behind stuff. It's not a ton I can do without really adjusting the camera, and that might take a bunch of time. I will try and get that changed up for next time I stream. I wanted to see what sort of situation would work. So this player deck goes here. Then select our starting location. We have no game winning bonus. Oh yeah. So we have this deck. This is one minor thing that bugs me about this rulebook. We have a great setup page, an amazing setup page. However, step 4 is not in order with everything else. So technically I did stuff slightly out of order. Really won't make a difference here. So we're starting with, this is placing our disease cubes. First group of 3 will get, let me double check something. I just want to make sure that I'm not getting like massive clumps. And that was just unfortunate. So our group of 3, well, we had to come over here anyways because we wanted to get Bangkok into the hands of the researcher. So we start with Taipei, getting 3, Osaka, getting 3, nope, I was looking at the wrong cards, Beijing, and Seoul, getting 3. These cards all go in the discard pile. Next stack, this is going to be our stacks of 2. I have 1 red left in my hand, so I'm just going to place the one in Bangkok. That one's already taken care of. So we're starting with 2 in Buenos Aires, two in the Algiers, and 2 in New York. That one's... New York is actually not nearly as close to Atlanta as you'd think, considering you have to go... it's 2 away. San Francisco gets 1. And finally, Delhi gets 1. So these cards go in here. Now, we start the game with 5 of these epidemic cards. Infection rate does seem like it could go higher. These epidemic cards get sorted into this deck, hence the same background. Technically, how you do that is you do what they call pile shuffling. And we're trying to get a semi-even disbursement of the epidemic cards in there. If you don't do this method of shuffling, there's a possibility you will get just nailed by the pandemic cards early and often, and just end up losing quickly. We had that actually happen before we remembered that rule in the first time we played through. Just got nailed. And I will talk a little bit about the legacy deck. So the legacy deck, we reached the point where it said not to draw anymore. However, the don't draw anymore, it says as soon as we get our second epidemic, stop and resolve this card immediately. So it's not just at the start of a month, and so we're in January. Goal is to play through this as few games as possible and get score based off of how well it's going. Let me double check my stream. Says my stream's still good. Good. It was just lagging on the computer, but we're also streaming from the same computer. So I think it's very possible that was the reason for the lag there. So I do have a pen now, which means I can name these characters. So we have Peggy Carter and Kitty Pryes. We'll go with a Marvel theme here, just for the heck of it. It's already nerdy what we're doing, let's make it even nerdier. Okay. Let me just double check again, this on my phone. Theoretically we're good. And now my phone's just being slow about it. Just close out and head back in. I just want to make sure that I'm still up and running. As far as I can tell, I should be. Yep, still up and running. Excellent. So I like to see. So at this point in time, we are ready to start our first game. You have to decide who starts first. Shake him up. And fourth action gets me to Tokyo. Ideally, I'd be further in, but not there yet. Alright, that's precisely what I wanted to get. I do need one more red card at this point, because I want to be able to build my structure wherever, or in red, so I can cure, instead of having to walk all the way back to Atlanta. So that's a good part. Now here's the bad part. We have Paris getting a blue cube, and Sao Paulo getting a yellow cube. Right now red is still the biggest threat for us, so I have my character here, 5 actions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, we've taken care of that. And I'm going to have to check some rules as we go along. A lot of the rules are the same, but there are a couple of different rules that you have to remember. And yeah, I just have to make sure I stay on top of those. Okay, that's good. Yellow, black card. And we're still only close on red. Flip here. Atlanta gets a blue cube. So in this game there is only one copy of each of these cities, which is really nice. So I know that right now, because I have not hit an epidemic, red is not going to outbreak. So I can go 1, 2, and then 3, 4. I think. Or I can go 1. And I'm using the ability here. You may give any one of your cards, when you share knowledge, it doesn't need to be the city. A player who shares knowledge with you on their turn can take any one of your city cards. So the issue is the researcher is really good at getting rid of her cards. So I can go 1, but then now we have to discard a couple, because you can only trade cards from the city you are in. So this actually does present an interesting situation. Let's see what we flip here. Ooh, another red one. Excellent. So that means we're safe for yet another turn, which also means we're getting closer and closer to that first epidemic. I don't know the precise count of number of city or player cards, so I don't know. I would think it's within the next couple of turns. Now let's see if I can use the 5 actions the generalist gives me to advantage. So 1, 2. I don't have to discard until the end of the turn. I'm in Seoul. Seoul is not one of those cards. Bangkok. Tokyo is one of those cards. Shanghai? Yes, Shanghai is. 1, 2, 3. I'll discard Shanghai to be able to build a place here. And then research station. Then I can use these 5 red cards, and now red has been cured. It's not the best turn, but of course, not the best turn when you hit that. It's one of your cards. So this goes into this deck, mainly because you don't pull much of anything from this deck. You want to keep it... actually keep it separate since you pile shuffle. What this means is the infection rate increases. You draw the bottom card from the infection deck, of course, another red card. Sydney gets 3. Then take all the cards that were in the infection discard pile. You shuffle them together. And then they're going on the top of this deck, and I'm drawing 2. I have Milan and Algiers, so that actually worked out really well. So I'm going to now slow this down for half a second here. So we've taken care of this epidemic. We've gotten cards sorted there. I'm going to slow this down because now the rules change for how you cure disease. What I was doing at first was, whenever I took the cure disease action, you cure 1 cube off of there. The medic has the ability to cure all the cubes on there with 1 action, which is why they're extremely powerful. However, now that the disease is cured, any player can remove all of the cubes from a location with a single action. So, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'll end here just because there's an off chance we can have some good shenanigans. Drawing 2, red card, not useful. Blue card, useful. We'll need it eventually. Right now we're closest to curing yellow with 4 cards. So that's what we're going to be looking for. Also, no epidemic. It's great. We're trying to avoid Taipei and Sydney. So Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo gets another cube. Oh, should have had one more. Clearly. I've not been down there to clear it. Seoul. So even though we've removed the cubes from Seoul, because we've only cured the disease, not eradicated, red can still show up as a disease. So now I'm going to use the generalist. Go 1. And if I wanted to, because I'm at a research station, I could fly all the way to Atlanta. However, right now, my focus is still on red. Because ideally you want to eradicate a disease. When you eradicate a disease, like I had to put down a cube when I flipped Seoul. If I eradicate it, and I flip a red card, you don't put down a cube, which is really, really strong. So, plus these are a couple spots that are dangerous. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I could go back to LA, but I think I'm going to go 5 here, since we're 2 cubes away, but it's going to take 2 separate turns. Alright, so we've hit the epidemic 2. We have our stop. As soon as the second card has been completely resolved. So we'll keep that stop there. Completely resolve this. So we bump up by 1. We're grabbing this. Moscow is going to get 3 black cubes. So our infection rate is still only infecting 2 cities, but we have in this chunk of cards 2 cities that will outbreak if we hit them. So I'm going to shuffle this well, not look at the cards, just kind of move them around. I don't have any way to get over there, so they're probably going to outbreak, but we have to stay on top of this, because outbreaks suck. Algiers, of course, we have an outbreak. So what that means is everywhere connected to Algiers, since Algiers has 3 cubes and cannot go higher than that, everywhere connected, it's a black cube. Flip the next one, Sao Paulo. Oh, we also move that up by 1. Sao Paulo, it's up higher now as well. Alright, we have taken care of this. Worst fears confirmed. So this is a briefing update for January. The disease with the most cubes on the board, for those that do not have discovered cures, so cannot be red, which is fine because black has the most diseases on the board, or cubes on the board. Yellow has 6, blue has 7, black has 11. Is now classified as CODA-403A. If there are 2 or more eligible diseases, or all are cured, select one to become CODA. The cure to CODA can no longer be found using known techniques. Players can continue to treat CODA, but is drug resistant. Players taking the treat action must now spend 1 additional action to treat CODA. First thing first tells us to destroy this. This is what it means by it's a legacy game. It said destroy. It is destroyed. Card's gone forever. Then open door 19. So that's where our mission briefing comes into play. On here we have sheets of cards, or stickers, and so I am looking for door number 19. have that right here. Punch that up. Apply the sticker to the disease with the most on the board. Black. This gets added into this section. And there's a spot for disease names. Basically, you don't name the diseases ahead of time because you don't know which one's going to be coda. So now knowing that, these black cards are mainly good for traveling. And I'll probably show, I might show how that works. Probably still working on taking care of red here. And that was Kitty Pryes' turn. So then it also says keep drawing. This is now discover a cure to all 3 remaining diseases, since we cannot cure black anymore. So we're 1/3 of the way done with our first game. As long as we get some blue cards, we should be in pretty good shape. We have now our researcher. I'm looking Baghdad and Mumbai. Okay. I'm going to spend this card, Baghdad card, for my first action to fly from Shanghai to Baghdad. 1, 2, 3, 4. Never mind. Just realized that doesn't work. Because I need 2 actions to be able to take care of it. And I have precisely... I'm 1 short. Essen... I cannot get close enough to be able to... That really sucks. So I think I should do 1, 2, take care of the red cubes. I'm going to use this 3, 4. It gets me close, and at this point in time, I think that's my best call is to end up close. Los Angeles, so we have enough yellows now, and Cairo. So that's going to be allowing me to get over there. We have Moscow. We have our next outbreak. So, like I said, one of the ways you can lose is by getting outbreaks. We're at 2 out of, well, we can have 8, technically, before we lose. Next way you can lose the game is you can run out of cubes. This is how many black cubes we have left. You can see there are a lot on the board. I'm going to be working on curing some of those and getting them back so that we're not dealing with outbreaks eventually coming up here. Thankfully, we only have 4 black cards in the top third of this deck, quarter of this deck, and that's probably going to be about all we ever see of this deck in this game, because of it's dependent upon when you hit your epidemics. Also, we hit that second epidemic really fast. If that one was at the top of the second clump and the third one is at the bottom of the third clump, we could have 10, 12 turns between epidemics, which would be great. Alright, so we drew that. So we're going to go 1, 2. That's nice. Because now red is eradicated. Every time we draw a red one, we do not put a red disease on the board. We named red disease Wimpy. It's not coda. It's no big deal. Took care of it already. That chunk of the board we don't even have to worry about. Never have to come back here in this game. There are a lot of diseases throughout the year. Man, it's a really rough year that this pandemic game is in. So that was 1, 2. I'm going to discard Delhi to go there. 3, 4, 5. Yellow. Nope. Yellow. Nope. Ooh, where are we? We're in Tehran. Excellent. So there's an interesting reason why this is excellent. So we gotta flip our next two. Seoul. Red card. Nothing happens. Milan. Blue. Milan is now a concern as well. Sao Paulo and Milan are both concerns. In some ways I am racing towards the end here. Almost forgot to do one thing. On here we have our different levels of cities. Whenever there's an outbreak, the level of the city goes up. Currently, we have a couple unstable cities in black, which is, of course, a lovely situation for us. Wow. That was smooth. Butter on a bald monkey. If they're at level 2 or 3, they're rioting. That there are specific rules for that. 4, collapsing. 5, fallen. And I'll go through what the differences are for those. So we have those guys in place. Flip those cards. What I'm going to do, let's go 1. Since I was going to be short in action anyways, 2, 3, 4. Where are my black disease cubes at? Got one back. That's good. And we also have all we need to cure yellow. Draw another red card, another yellow card. That's going to be really handy because I'll be able to book it to Sao Paulo next turn if I want to. We're flipping here, San Fran. It's a blue. And I'm really hoping we just start hitting a run of red cards here. Buenos Aires, of course not. So we have an issue in South America for now. We have Kitty Pryde here. We happen to draw Tehran, which is exactly where Kitty Pryde is. That allows us to discard that to build a research station there. So that's one action. We're going to discard all of these cards to cure yellow. That's 2 actions. Then I'm going to come up to Moscow. Yeah. 3, 4. Get another black cube back. 3 to go up to Moscow. 4, 5 to deal with that, which works because of Kitty Pryde's ability. So now, flipping. Karachi, good. Paris, excellent. We're now 1 blue card away from being able to end this game. Of course, Atlanta gets a blue, and Cairo gets a black. Cairo is now an issue as well. Get somebody down there to deal with that. So what I'm going to do for Peggy Carter's turn, we'll go 1, 2 to fly from Moscow to Cairo, 3, 4, we've dealt with the Cairo problem. Algiers is still an issue. Buenos Aires and Sao Paulo are still an issue. But it's a little bit better. Let's see, what did I do? Sorry, I'm trying to remember everything I did that turn. I gave Essen. I'm actually not going to have given acid. I'm going to have given Sao Paulo, and I'll show why I want to do that in a second here. Hey, government grant. It allows us to put a research station anywhere and we have Lima. Excellent. So this card I'm going to use immediately. It's just worthwhile to set up that as many of these spots as possible. And I'll explain why shortly here. I'll actually just put it straight into Sao Paulo. I think that makes sense. Good distribution around the board right now. Wouldn't be bad to have one like in Cairo eventually. And we'll see if that happens. Such a good, light, refreshing beer. Sydney, red card, gets nothing. Beijing, red card, gets nothing. Alright. So the reason I gave Sao Paulo is I can discard this to fly there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, this is a cured disease, so I can cure all of these cubes, or treat all of these cubes at once. 4, and so 5 causes me to end there. We are 1 spot away from eradicating yellow, which would be huge. Let's hope for some blue cards. Nope, not a blue. Still not a blue. Great. That's right now. That's our biggest holdup. Is we need 1 more blue card. When we get one of those, these we'll just race to meet up and research station and cure. Since that's not the case, we continue. New York gets a blue cube, and Bangkok gets nothing. So I think I glossed over it, but trading cards with the researcher is easy because they don't have to trade the card of the city they're in. Otherwise, if I had 2 different characters, you would have to meet up in the city of the card that you are trading, which can be tricky when you have to chase around the whole map. Dispatcher really helps with that, or as you can see, the researcher really helps with that. So we flip those. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And 4. I want to try and get to Milan. I'm going to have to deal with that potentially. Moscow doesn't do any good, but helps move around. 3rd epidemic card. So we're now at the point where we're drawing 3 infection cards every turn. Manila, however, is eradicated. So that means we do not get any cubes on Manila. So I think we have something like 5 red cards out of this bunch, plus Milan, New York. Those are the 2 concern cards, and we'd really like to hit red, red, red. Black, Moscow gets a cube. 1. Yellow, Buenos Aires gets a cube. Can still deal with yellow in a single turn. And blue, Atlanta gets a cube. Not the worst outcome in the world. Not great, not horrible. So now, I'm going to go 1, take 2, 3, 4, 5. To get those, yellow is now eradicated. That means any red or yellow cards that come up do not hurt us. So I have taken care of half the world, basically, at this point. So we got a red, doesn't do any good. Blue, no, still not a blue. Of course not a blue. Blues, that's all I'm digging for at this point in time. Cairo gets a black. So I'm going to have to come back over and start dealing with this. Sydney gets nothing, and Sao Paulo gets nothing. So we have successfully, we only got one cube out of that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So the reason for doing that is now if Milan comes up, we are safe from that outbreaking for the game. Like, we will not hit that point again in the game. San Fran and Algiers have extra card. We'll discard Lima, don't need it. Flipping 3. Milan, perfect. Algiers, not perfect. And Seoul, nothing happens. So, right now, we need to meet up so that these two blue cards can get to the generalist. And I'm not currently concerned about Algiers and Cairo because we need another epidemic to come up to kick either of those off. Same with Atlanta. New York is an issue, however, not a massive issue. Let's meet in... Let's meet in Moscow, looks like. Yeah. Meeting in Moscow, so 1, 2, 3... Wait, I was here. 1, 2, 3, 4... Wait, could I shortcut that? Yes, I can. Because I'm looking at the cards here. Karachi drops me right there, actually. So let's just spend Karachi. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I have another action that I just don't have a use for, unfortunately. So we're drawing 2. Riyadh. Oh, I was over on cards there. And Milan. Still over. Get rid of these two. Now I only need one blue, which is awesome. We are flipping here. New York outbreaks. So first things first, so I don't forget. We have a counter. An ideal spot. New York, fortunately, is not extremely connected. Which seems odd. Washington, Montreal, London, and Madrid. Madrid is, yeah. So that was 1. Beijing, nothing happens. Manila, nothing happens. So now I need to get to Tehran. I will spend Moscow to fly, because I can spend card either from where I'm at to fly to a spot or where I want to go. So I'm using the one from where I wanted to go. So I flew to Moscow. 1, 2, 1. Let's see, I was there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Might as well. That means I'm not all that concerned right now. We're in a great spot. But we're drawing 2, yellow, and blue. We are over 7. Just get rid of yellow. Flipping 3, Bangkok, nothing. Excellent. San Fran gets a blue. still fine because we've been dealing with it well. And Paris gets a blue. When calculating outbreaks, you only calculate the disease cube that is there, I'm quite sure. Outbreaks. Yes. So, we have our generalist. Take one card, cure blue, and we are done. However, because it's a legacy game, that's not where everything ends. We have to check what's going on. We have our back here. Put down today's date is 5/21. Just to track our plays, characters, Kitty Pryes, and Peggy Carter. And we won. That means we don't have to play January for a second time. That might be visible, might be more visible over here. Don't have to play January for a second time because we won. However, it also means our funding has gone down from 4 to 2. That means of those special cards we had in there, which we only hit 1, government grant, we now only get 2 of those instead of 4. So record that. We get 2 upgrades, clear your game pieces, discard, and set up again. So there are a few different upgrades we can do. We could do an unfunded event. We have 3 of those thus far. We have an experimental program, move 1 disease cube anytime from anywhere on the board, trending data, look at the infection cards at the current infection rate, don't change order, and grassroots. The person who plays this card may discard up to 3 city cards, moving 1 cube matching the color anywhere on the board. Those are pretty solid. However, there are also a few other stickers you can use. There's starting research stations, which is what I'm leaning towards at this point. Since we have fairly good spread, we want to be able to come back to some of these places and travel around the world a whole lot faster than we did in the first game. Tehran is basically the whole way across the world, and Shanghai would allow us to get into red very quickly. Then there are character upgrades. We have a few different character upgrades that we could put on the character cards. They have upgrade slots, as well as relationship and scars. We will talk about those when they show up. For upgrades, we have grizzled, where you don't get a scar if you're in a city when it outbreaks. Flexible, for an action, discard a card to draw a card of the same color from the player discard pile. Not super useful right now. Forecaster, look at the top 2 cards of the infection deck. Decent. Archive access, increase your hand limit by 1. That would be useful for the generalist eventually. Local connections, once per turn, you may treat a disease in a city connected to your city. That's quite strong. Pilot, do not discard a card when taking a direct flight. Show the card and return it to your hand. Also strong. We can also play positive mutations on any of the diseases that we can eradicate or cure eradicate, so yellow, red, or blue. Currently we can only do common structure. That means we don't have to be at a research station to cure the disease. Useful? Yes, it's mainly a good way to get to the other mutations. However, at this point in time, I am going to do the same upgrade twice. We have in Tehran, a starting research station, and we're going to have in Shanghai a starting research station. I'd love to have been able to place one also in Sao Paulo. You only get 2 upgrades per time. And that is our first game of Pandemic Legacy Season 1. My hope is come back tomorrow, play another game. I am going to try and leave this set up somewhat for tomorrow, and I think the one last thing we can do, and we had 2 infection or epidemics left. They were both fairly far down. Is we can pick or talk about why I'm going to pick which ones that I'm going to for my funded events. Government grant is extremely strong. However, because we were able to get 4 research stations on the board and 4 research stations in good spots on the board, which is really key, I don't think I need this one in the deck anymore. So that's going to get set to the side. Resilient population is very strong. It allows us to pull a card. Could have been able to pull something like New York even after you pull an infection card or epidemic card. You can play it immediately, dealing with the cards in the discard pile fast. One Quiet Night is extremely good because it allows you just not to pull cards for one night. Or Forecast, looking at the top 6 cards and putting them back in any order, allows you to set up potentially a couple uneventful turns. So for that reason, I'm dropping One Quiet Night. As much as I like it, I feel like I have better options with these 2. So I'll put these back on top there, pull back these cards, and just gonna do a little bit of cleanup once we're done. But there's one last thing. We have this card. On the back it says, draw this card at the end of your first game in January before selecting your game and upgrades. We already did that. That's fine. Scratch this bonus off if you win a game in January. We did. I have a penny. I don't know why I have a penny. I just do. I love the fact that you have hidden information. I do not love scraping off this stuff. What it says is, for any game in February, after setup and before the first turn begins, remove 1 disease cube from the board and return it to its supply. Very strong, allows us, especially with black taking 2 actions to cure. If, for example, we were to start next game with 3 black cubes in Algiers, we'd just be able to remove 1 of them. Straight up remove it. So, I think this is where I'm going to end for tonight. I'm just trying to come up if there was anything more we should go over. I don't think there is. At this point in time, we know our coda. We know how the game works. I am going to try and continue to explain a few things, how they work in the next game, and I'll probably repeat some of the things that I've already said. After the second game, and I played this one pretty fast, I'm going to play fast. I'm going to tell you the actions I'm doing and kind of count them out like I was, but I'm going to stop explaining in detail as to how things work. Until, of course, we hit new rules in this game. And that will happen regularly, so I'll slow down again to explain how those new rules work. With that said, bottoms up. I'll see you next time.